Hi, this is Rabbi Tzvi Mandel of Congregation Kal B'nai Yisrael, community of Jewish friends. So we're going to continue our Perkei Avos, ethics of our ancestors, and we're up to the second chapter, the second Mishnah. And we'll read it in Hebrew first, and then we'll go over it and try to explain it and perhaps explain it. Okay, so the Mishnah says Rabbi Gamliel was the son of Rabbi Yehuda Anasi, the prince, Rabbi Yehuda the prince, and the commentaries say why before was he called Rebbe, which was his name, and here he's referred to as Rabbi Yehuda the prince. And the answer is because when he was alive, he was referred to as Rebbe. He was the Rebbe of the generation, as opposed to if he passed away. There were many great Rebbes, many great leaders, so they referred to him by his name, Rabbi Yehuda Nasi. That's how the Tiferes Yisrael explains it. We shall continue. Yafet Talmud Torah Derech Eretz. It's good to study Torah with Derech Eretz, and we'll see that Derech Eretz can mean a number of things. Either besides studying Torah, one must work, or it might mean having good character traits, having Derech Eretz, being respectful. It might mean Avos Yisrael, loving other Jews. There are a number of translations. And the Mishnah explains that the reason why we need both, and one alone is not enough, studying alone is not enough, and working alone is not enough, is because she'egias shneihem, toiling, doing these two things, mishkachas avin, makes one forget sinning. We'll explain that as well with God's help. Every learning of Torah that does not have any work with it, Seifa B'Teila, at the end, the Torah will become null and void. The Gereris Arvin, worse than that, or just as bad as that, it could cause one to sin. That seems to be the end of the first part of the Mishnah. The second part of the Mishnah is V'chala Amelam Emat Tzibur. All people that toil and work hard for the good of the klal, the good of the congregation or the all of Israel, to help people. You are Melam Imam should toil l'shem Shemaim for God's sake, not for their own honor or for their own gain, money or whatever else it might be. Shezchus avoisa misyatan, because the merit that Israel has, that the people of Israel has, because of the great ancestry that they come from, our Zedus and Babis, all the way back to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, their merit is really the one that misyatan, that helps them. We'll soon see what that means. It's it kasam, and their righteousness, Amedus La'ad, is for eternity. Our Babas and Zaydis and their grandparents all the way back, the good deeds they did and we do today is something that stays forever and ever and ever. Evil doesn't even exist, and when the little that does exist disperses and gets lost and forever and ever. Good things that one does, that any person does, especially the Jewish people, with our mitzvahs, our precepts, and our learning and davening, our beautiful holidays and Shabbos, stays forever and ever and ever. And in heaven, these great things give us eternal bliss, which is what we are all looking forward towards, and which our Father in heaven loves and will always love to disperse, to give us and for us to be part of. But Atam, and you, the people that are trying to help the people, Mala and Aleichem Schar Harbe Kilu Asisem. If you help the people and you're a teacher or a rabbi or a therapist or whatever you are to help the people, or if you're donating money, and you do it for God's sake, not for honor and not for anything else, then Hashem says, I consider this as if you are the one that are actually doing all the great things that you're helping the people do, and therefore you get a lot of rewards, char harbe, as if you yourself would be doing it, though you're not doing it. Okay, let's, little by little. We'll go back. So Reb Gamliel, the son of Reb Yehuda Nasi, is saying as follows. Yafa, it's very beautiful to study Torah if it goes with work. Either one is a blue-collared worker, or one is a worker, a white-collared worker, whatever color your collar is. So the Bartanura says, then the Torah weakens a person's energy. Person sits and toils and study 3, 5, 8 hours a day. At the end of the day, he's knocked out because it takes a lot of concentration to really study the Holy Torah on any level. But that's not enough. One can have put in a hard day in studying, but his body is still strong. So the work that a person does, physical work, or work in an office, whatever it might be, that breaks the body. Why do we have to break our body, and why do we have to feel tired from the energy we put into studying? So what the Mishnah is telling us is because all human beings have tendencies to doing evil on one level or another, right? All the tests that we have from the Yetzer Hara, the evil inclination, which is part of any human being, and this is how God made the world, will channel us to do the wrong thing. But when one's energy is he's knocked out, and his body is knocked out, so he's not going to follow up on the evil inclinations and his evil thoughts, but rather he will stay on the beaten path. Another interpretation is that studying Torah is beautiful when it comes with Avos Yisrael, with loving your own brothers and sisters. This interpretation is from the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, Rabbi Yosef Yitzchak, Zechem V'Chas Chus Yagen Aleinu. And it goes as follows, because there's basically 3 loves in the Jewish religion. Love of Hashem, love of the Torah, and love of your fellow Jew. These are the 3 precepts that Yiddishkeit is built on. Doesn't mean you don't love your children, doesn't mean you don't love your wife and your friends. What it does mean is that within the frame of what one builds up their life about consists of these 3 loves. So that if you're studying Torah and you don't know how to love another Jew, which is basically what the Torah is all about, as Rabbi Akiva said, then you better get your act together. Because one without the other is mishkachas oven. If there's too much of one or the other, then one is missing in fundamental importance, whether it's the studying of the Torah, or whether it's missing the Avos Yisrael, the love of Israel. One can't live in his own shell. He has to know about other Jews and help them and try to worry about them and take care of their needs, whether it's with money or whether it's emotionally, or whether praying for them. We all pray for each other, all the blessings in the Shemona Esrei and everywhere speaks in plural, because we're all together. And the greatest blessing is the blessing of peace between all the Jews. That's why it's the last blessing in Shemona Esrei and the Amidah, because it includes everything of all the 18 blessings. Another interpretation is Yavatel and Torah Derech Eretz is that studying Torah is good when it comes with one being humble. one studies the Torah, and from the Torah he sees how much he's missing. And for that reason he longs for more study of Torah. And he longs for making himself a better person. I don't like the word perfection. No one's perfect except for Hashem. But it brings him closer to the amount of perfection that he can be according to his soul, according to his neshama that he was created with. Everyone has a purpose in the world. Your purpose is a spiritual purpose. It has nothing to do with what your profession is. There was a great rabbi in Europe who was a chassid of the Holy Baal HaTanya, and he was a rabbi in a community for many years. And he came to visit his Rebbe once every couple of years and gave him a kvittel, and the Baal HaTanya looked at him and said, "What are you doing for a living?" He said, "I'm a Rav of a community." He says, "Why are you a Rav? You're supposed to be a wagon driver." And he didn't even go home. Got himself a job as a wagon driver, and then went home and supported himself as such, because his neshama was supposed to be doing that in this life. What does it mean to teach us? It means two things. First of all, whatever we're doing, one has to have a tzaddik to teach him, let him know what his neshama is about in this world, why he is here. B, you better be in the right profession, otherwise you might have to come down again. And that happens time and time again. So, along with this interpretation, the Kamarna brings down from the Chayzim Ulablin, who said, Mishkachas Avain, if one studies Torah and doesn't have good traits with it, doesn't work on his being humble, then sin is very often and very happens very often. One can fall to sin very fast. It's shchiach, the attitude of I'm okay and everything's okay just because I'm studying. Or on the other hand, just because I'm working and I make a good living, really brings a person to the wrong place. Another part of the Mishnah goes and tells us it's Gerera Seven, it causes sin, which is precisely what we're saying. Because the whole purpose of studying Torah is to know that we have a job in this world. And it brings us closer to know how to fulfill this job. And it makes us more humble, just like the greater a person is. Moshe Rabbeinu, Moses, our teacher, was so great, and he was the one who received the Torah on Mount Sinai, didn't eat and drink for 40 days and 40 nights, but still considered himself like the smallest Jew. The Torah says explicitly that he was the most humble person. So, we'll continue. Now, talking about people that do good for the community, whether it's a teacher, a rabbi, a therapist, a great leader of a generation, all of these people have to know that their work should be for Hashem's sake and not for their own honor, not for money, not for any external reasons, but rather just because this is what Hashem wants. And if they do as such, it'll be worth it. First of all, let's go to the end of the Mishnah. They themselves will be given a much greater reward. And all the mitzvahs and all the good deeds and things that they have accomplished and will be considered as if they themselves did it. Not just that they caused someone else to do it. The Akedah, Bal Akedah, says something very interesting, that every year God judges us, judges the whole world. And he also judges the dead, as it says in the prayer on Rosh Hashanah. question is, what does he judge the dead about? They're dead already. What did they do this past year? They were already in Gan Eden. What's there to judge them about? Balakeda says, he judges all the good things that they did and all the beautiful people that they brought closer to Yiddishkeit or to studying Torah or helped them maybe financially so they were able to be on their own feet and their children, and all the good they caused in this world every year becomes greater and greater and greater. It gives them more and more reward. That's only if it's done l'shem shamayim, for God's sake, not for their own honor, not for any other ulterior motive. And that's why it's important to do it l'shem shamayim. It's also important to do it with amalin, toiling. Toiling means working hard, not just doing the things that make me feel good. Though it's important that the toil should make one feel good. If a person's incentive is for Hashem, then the toiling will feel good. And it's okay to feel good. Another part of this is the reason why one should do it for Hashem's sake, as we began when we read it, is because the merit of these people that you are trying to help, what brings them closer to God, is not your doing. You're a catalyst for their parents, grandparents, great-grandparents, all the way back to the beginning of time, that are already in paradise, perhaps thousands of years, who are praying to God and begging God that children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, descendants for who knows how many generations should go on the right path and should do the right thing. And this is chus avoisam misyatam. Every time a Jew stands and says the Amidah prayer 3 times a day, Shmona Esrei it's called, we start with Elokeinu v'Elokei Aviseinu, Elokei Avram, Yitzchak v'Yaakov. You are our God and the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Because we have to connect with where we come from in order to be connected to Hashem. Of course, every one of us is loved and created by God, and Hashem wants to be close to us, and we should be close to Him. But it's where we come from that allows us this greatness. Otherwise, if you just fell down to this earth straight from heaven, you're not a tree, you're not a dog, you're not a cat. You're a Jew. And the great Munkach Rebbe says in his very famous book, Divrei Torah, very interesting thing. Why is davening, praying, called davening? In Yiddish, it's called davening. So he says it comes from an Aramaic word, da'avuhaim. Da'avuhaim means your ancestors, because they're both very connected together. Your praying connects you to your Zaydis and your Babas. Another part of this is that when one does things for the community, sometimes it takes away from his own growing, whether it's in the study of Torah, whether it's sometimes missing a mitzvah, whatever it might be. And there are laws in the Shulchan Aruch as to what could be put aside, perhaps, until someone does something for others. But whatever it is, there is such a concept. And Maimonides Ramban teaches us that if you were busy helping others and missed something, then God considers it as if you did what you had to do for Him as well, personally, because you were busy helping others. That's a very beautiful concept. Because there's always this, perhaps, dispute within a person's mind, a person's heart. Do I help someone else? Should I help myself better? Charity begins at home. And there are many different rules to this without getting into them. That's why the Mishnah is very consoling and comforting when it tells us this. We will stop right here.